Hey everybody, welcome back to the World of Tanks Garage. I am bringing you here the T29 heavy tank. The T29, as you can see by my crew, I've had for a long time and I've enjoyed playing. And in fact, just as a side note, my stats on the T29 are probably not as good as they should be. I've got a 464 battles and a 52% win rate in this tank. If I had understood the T29 a year or two ago as well as I do today, I'd probably have a 60 or 70% win rate in this tank. The T29 is, of course, the American Tier 7 Heavy that comes from the M6. This is not really fair, historically speaking. The American T29, T32, the Tier T30, which is a tank destroyer at Tier 9, and the T34, which I do not have in my garage, but it's the Tier 8 Premium heavy tank, were all kind of co-developed. They were all part of the same program, the American Heavy Tank Program of 1944 to 1952, give or take. Very few of these tanks were ever even produced in any real fashion. The T29 was probably made the most, and there's a few of them out there that you can see. I think there's a couple in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. There's a couple in the Proving Grounds in Aberdeen. I think there's one or two at Fort Benning down in Georgia. Everyone says IS, Soviet heavies, Soviet heavies. Let me tell you what the T29 can do that the IS can't. The T29 can bounce a shot from the IS, and the IS can't. You've got frontal hull armor of 102 millimeters, okay, which is not overly thick. It's the same as M6 Heavy, except look at the slope on that, okay. The Americans took the lessons learned from the Panther and put a beautiful slope on this frontal armor, so even hitting it head on, this is not 102 millimeters thick, it's more like 155. And if you're smart enough to angle it like that, all of a sudden it becomes almost 200 millimeters, and if you put him up on a hill where you have to fire up at that, good luck. You will never have any chance unless you're in a Tier 10 tank, which why a Tier 10 tank would be fighting this guy, I don't understand. What really makes this tank so wonderful, though, is this turret. 279 millimeters of frontal turret armor, and that's not even counting this giant, thick American gun mantlet. You cannot reasonably expect to pen the turret of this tank with anything. Okay? Tier 9 and 10 tank guns, yes, okay, especially firing premium ammo, but again, this tank will not be in those situations, or it should not be fighting an E100, okay, we all know that. Generally, your details are your weak spots, like the ears on this turret. The goofy little ears, which if I remember correctly is a radio array, but don't quote me on that. No, those ears are not viable targets. It has the same armor rating as the front. This hatch is a viable target, but if you see, if you're on level ground, it is set way back there, you're shooting up at it, it's rounded on top, it is not easy to hit. You need a precision gun to hit that shot. Okay, well, Hachiman, how do I deal with the T29 if I'm fighting one? Well, it's easy. You flank it. You see the profile in this tank, the hull, is nowhere near the M6. It is much lower, allowing it to go hull down. The side hull armor on this tank is only 76 millimeters, easily penetrable by 3-inch guns from Tier 5 tanks. The side turret is not nearly as troll at 127. However, that 127 refers to this area right here. Okay? Over here, that still gets the frontal turret armor rating of 279, and over here gets the rear turret armor rating of 102, which is actually less. So that's still a viable target. The 102 rear turret you can obviously see this is very flat indeed, and 51 on the rear hull. If you're in a T29 and someone's behind you, you're in a bad place. I've got a wonderful video, a Radley Walters medal in my T20 medium tank, where Thermo and I just annihilated one of these guys. He came after us, he got too close, we used our speed, we flanked him and killed him. 35 kph top speed, yeah. Going downhill, flat hard ground if you've had a good run at it. Not realistic on rough ground or going uphill. It's a bit of a dog, frankly. 25 traverse speed, yeah, that's pretty realistic, but again, if you're going uphill and then you got to turn, oh gosh, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. This turret on this tank, if you can get hull down with this tank, even against tier 8s and even some tier 9s, if you can keep all this lower and just have your turret sticking up, they're going to have a really hard time. There's a lot of really great positions that you can put this tank in on various maps and let the turret do its work. Talk about the weaponry for a second. A tank comes standard with the 76mm M1A2. If you have come through the heavy tank line, you've done the M6, and you already have the 90mm M3 gun, I've already told you how great this gun is. It is perfectly adequate on a tier 7 tank. Okay, it will do more. It'll do everything you need it to do at tier 7, even against tier 8s. Tier 9s it has some trouble with, but it's with premium ammo it can go tier 9 no problem. The 105mm at tier 8. This gun increases the average penetration with regular rounds by 38mm, which gives you that extra punch you need to deal with tier 8 heavies and tier 9 tanks. Additionally, the average damage goes up 33%. Now, your DPM comes down. Okay, you need to be aware of that. Your DPM with this gun will be lower. However, the 90mm just cannot match the punch of this 105mm gun. Additionally, the reload time is pretty good. Again, tank gun rammer and vents, I am running an actual reload time of 9.62 seconds. This is substantially faster than the gun on the IS, okay, for example. The IS's 122mm is going to be, with rammer and vents, I believe 12 or 13 seconds. I haven't had one in a while. But the point is, you're going to get, after the initial shot, you're going to get 3 shots per his 2. So, you simply put, you can get your licks in. And an IS's 122mm is not pinning this turret. It's just not doing it. You got to guard your lower plate, but as you can see, it's not a big target, and if you have any terrain whatsoever, just about any type of hill is going to block this. Like most American tanks, it also has very good gun depression and elevation, so you can use those to your advantage. Quick note on the tech tree on this tank. The tier 7 turret, which gives you these armor ratings, is separate from everything else. You will need the track before you can put the 105mm gun on. I believe you can load the 90 with the stock track, but you will have to research the track to research this 105. You don't need the turret to get the 105. What the turret does do is it gives you a better traverse speed, I believe. Same traverse, but it gives you substantially more range. And the turret on the tier 6, the armor, on the tier 6 turret is the same. So this turret is not the end-all be-all of this tank. You can get along with the stock turret just fine, but you have to research the tier 7 turret to move up to the tier 8 tank, the T32. Pretty much running out of time on this guy, but the T29 has always been one of my favorite tanks. I've had a number of videos that I've put up, and I always said I would do a garage overview on him. I think that if you take the time to research it and buy it and really take the time to play it and understand it, you'll understand why I consider this to be the best tier 7 heavy tank in the game by far, and not the Soviet IS, contrary to common belief. Please thumbs up the video. It would mean a lot. Also subscribe and comment below. See you